with as well, okay? But first and foremost, let me just say this. Talking is one of the major ways that couples actually begin to develop bonds and connections with the other party. Okay, all right? And relationships are built on a bedrock of emotional connection. Okay, all right? So this is a big percentage of the relationship, you know? You being able to discuss whether it's very deep, whether it's small talk, whether it's your interests, whether it's your likes, whether it's things that are going wrong in the relationships, whether it's difficult emotions, whether it's them validating how you feel, whether it's, to be seen and understood, whatever it is, right? Conversations oftentimes are the vehicle that help us to connect with the other party in the particular relationship, okay? So when I put this title, Why Your Man Doesn't Open Up to You, I want you to understand first and foremost, some of you, your problem is you chose somebody who wasn't opening up in the first place, and actually you're the problem. I always got to start strong, okay? Let me say it for you, so you get your pen and paper out right now, because I'm going to start strong. First and foremost, some of you, you've chosen the wrong person. They are not for you. You're forcing it and you're begging it. And now you're reaping the repercussions of choosing that person. That's the first one, okay? You know who you are. You're begging it. You're forcing it. You're doing too much. That relationship isn't the one. And you know it's not. And now you're trying to ask me how to fix it. There's no reason. You know that's a wrong relationship. You know it deep down in your heart. You know you're ignoring the red flags. You've ignored the signs that saying stop. You want to keep going. That's the first part. Number two, here's another issue I also see. Okay? Here's another issue I also see is someone being able to be open and share their thoughts, their feelings, and have deep conversations. Why have you chosen somebody who doesn't do that in the first place? No, really deep. How important is it that they open up to you if you start a relationship and they don't start that way in the first place? If they never really opened up to you in the first place, and you're telling me that deep conversations or having conversations regularly is important to you, why are you here? Why are you even in that relationship? How did it get to there? Because something that was meant to be important to you shouldn't be getting into a relationship where the person hasn't got the qualities or the skills to even get you there. Right? The truth of the matter is that you potentially also are a problem. You yourself probably are not emotionally as connected as you said you are, as you think you are, and you might not be as emotional available as you think you really are. And that's why you've chosen somebody who too doesn't connect in the way that you want them to. That's number two. Number three is that some of you, closed mouths don't get fed. Some of you don't want to open your mouth and tell the other person, I have this need. I want to share my life with you. I want to have conversations with you. I want to get to know you more on a deeper level. I want you to get to know me on a deeper level so that we can really connect, so that we can actually get, further along our relationship. Some of you don't open your mouth and say anything. You're expecting it to happen. Okay? Number four. Okay, why do some men not open up? Well, some of you, before I even get to that stage, I've just got to let you know, some of you, okay, some of you, you're not good listeners. You know who you are. You're a poor listener, and that's why they're not opening up to you, okay? All right? You don't listen very well. They start talking, and you're like, yeah, me too. And you destroy the safe space for the person to even open up. Everything is me too. My friend, this is not the time. Okay? I'm saying these points really quick. I'll expand it later on. Another point some of you are, okay, is that you overtake the space with your emotions. Yeah? Your emotions dominate the space. And so it leaves no room for the other person to also feel like they can show up, because they have to kind of work with your emotions. You want to know how it looks like? It looks like, have you watched Love is Blind US? Have you seen The Black Couple? Have you seen Edmund and Calibra? You see how his emotions take up a lot of space in that relationship? That's how some of you are. Some of you are the exact same way. Your emotions take up all the space in the relationship. So no one can really share anything for you because your emotions come first. It's like, it's not safe to share. You get emotional all the time. And when I say emotional, I'm being very broad because, again, there's nothing wrong with being emotional, actually. Technically, there's nothing wrong with that. What we're saying is your emotional expression takes up a lot of space. Okay. right? And some of you, when it comes to having conversations that, for them to open up, you don't have patience, man. Some of you don't have patience at all. Honestly, some of you don't shut up. You don't. A little bit of silence, you're uncomfortable and you fill the gap. Your person could be talking to you and they be having conversation and they leave a 3-second gap. Your heart starts beating. Bah, 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 bah. You have to fill the gap in and you immediately jump in. You've destroyed the space. They haven't finished their thought process. Okay? All right? They haven't finished their thought process. Look, one thing I know about, they may say men don't open up. Men don't open up. No, listen, what men have is an ego. So let me tell you a quick tip before I get into the deeper part of this video. Men have egos. Let me tell you how you get a man to open up. You ask him, what's his thoughts on such and such? How do you feel about this? What's your thoughts on that? And when you ask him, even if it's short, you say, I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you. You see, when we encourage whatever the person gives at that point in time, we plant seeds. Okay? All right? So when you ask a person to this, if someone asks you a question and you give them room to say it, and then also as well, you encourage the response like, wow, I didn't even think of it that way. I appreciate you. Again, because what men actually want is adoration. They want affection. They want to be appreciated. Okay, all right? They want accountability. So when you are able to be in a space where that man opens up and you're like, oh, wow, I didn't see it that way. You're admiring his thought process. Thank you for sharing that. You're appreciating him. You're showing him that you personally you like his thought process. Why won't they share more? Some of you don't even like your partner's thought process. And that's the reason why you keep talking over them. And that's why you don't allow them space to talk. That's why you don't allow them space to finish their thought process. You think your thought process is more important. In fact, the conversation isn't for you. It's not for them, sorry. It's not for everybody. It's just for you. For you to feel safe and feel better. And you've forgotten about your partner also needs that from you. Some of you just need to shut up. Keep quiet. Shut it. Zip. Ask your question and pause. Ask your question and pause. You know how I know some of you can't do it? Because on this platform, when we have conversations, some of you will yap. You ask a question, they answer, and then when they ask you to answer the question for them, and I answer it, I'll get halfway into the answer, person interrupts me. So what's happening is you're not allowing the person to land. It's no longer, you're not encouraging the conversation. You're co-opting. And I don't want you to do that anymore, okay? Now, those are just some thought processes. They're not all on you. I want to make it clear. I just put the things ahead of time, the things that you can actually change, okay? Because there are other things which are not to do with you at all. They're not to do with your behavior. They are simply to do with that man, okay? All right? We're going to get there, okay? So I'm going to break down to you, okay? So today I'm talking about one of the biggest frustrations I know for a lot of women is that when they're in dating, they feel like these men don't open up. They feel like these men don't share. These men don't try to talk about what's on their minds and what's on their hearts. Okay, all right. You've probably been there, ladies, where you've been in a situation where you've asked him what's wrong, what's going on, what's in your mind. Okay, and you get, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm okay. I mean, ladies do the same thing, but hey, we're talking about the men. Okay, all right. But you can sense that something's not quite right. Right? So I'm going to break down what's going underneath all of that situation. Okay. Now, a lot of times, okay, when it comes to men opening up, number one, first and foremost, is it's not a natural thing that we do. Because there aren't often many safe spaces for men to do so. This is not to say women are at fault. This is specifically, I'm explaining the dynamic so you can understand the environment as we get here. Okay, there isn't often a lot of spaces for men to be able to open up and share. Why? Because a lot of friendships are more based on experiences that we have together, shared activities that we do together, but not necessarily sharing of deep thought and emotions. That's not how men usually bond. Okay, now in that space, it's not trained. We're not trained to do those things, and we don't necessarily get closer to our boys necessarily, quote unquote, when we share the deepest things. How we get closer to our boys is when we have shared experiences. Like we go and play football together, that's how we get closer. Or we go and watch a movie together, that's how we get closer. We go and eat a meal together and break bread, that's how we get closer, right? And that's how we begin to do things. Men tend to get closer through the experiences that they share with one another, okay? All right? So talking isn't necessarily one of the biggest things for us because we're looking for solutions, because our whole value of being is based upon solving problems. So when we're not solving problems, why are we talking? That's our thought process for a lot of men, not all, for a lot of men. Okay, a lot of our thought process is, if I'm not solving the issue, talking about it ain't gonna solve it. It's only gonna make me feel emotional, and if I'm not emotionally tuned anyway, that's just wrong. Doesn't make sense. Well, I'm gonna feel more sad about something. I need a action, and I need a solution. I need something that's gonna get me moving. Okay, so this is a very big thing for men in that particular aspect, right? And so that's one aspect. The other aspect is there's a lot of men too. There's a lot of men too who also aren't emotionally safe, meaning within themselves, they're not emotionally safe. They don't know how to be. They don't know how to express emotions or not think by expressing emotions they're going to look weak. They don't know how to be vulnerable. And of course, vulnerability is part of vulnerability is weakness. They don't know how to also be vulnerable and not assume that they themselves are weak. Yes, I can be in a vulnerable position, but that doesn't mean I'm vulnerable. I'm not weak. I can be strong and have and be in a and share a vulnerable thing. I'm not vulnerable. Like, as a person, I'm still sharing something on my heart, yes, but I'm not vulnerable. I'm strong for sharing this because I understand you can't hurt me with this information. You can't do me dirty like this. This is something that's true to me. Yes. Yes. Is it a thing that's close to my heart? Yes. But I recognize that there is strength in co-regulation. There's strength in sharing. I can recognize that. And so my thought process isn't the same. For men who don't recognize that, this can be very difficult. Okay? All right? So for instance, when we talk about attachment styles, which we're going to talk about today, okay, for some people, sharing or opening up themselves can feel like they're losing themselves. You know what I mean? Okay? Sharing can make them feel like they're losing themselves. You know, they're afraid to get judged or be made to feel weak. That's what they're afraid of. The biggest fear is shame and embarrassment. That's what emotional safety is. Emotional safety is the ability to share your opinions, your thoughts, your ideas, your feelings, your emotions without feeling like you're going to be shamed, embarrassed, harmed, punished, hurt for sharing those things. So immediately we can see that the person doesn't feel safe because they're afraid of something happening to them. Okay, so let's talk about attachment styles because that's how I'm going to break this topic down and hopefully give you a bit more insight into what's going on. Okay, so there is the British psychologist John Bowlby, Mary Ainsworth, okay, British psychologists who discovered that young children, the way they dealt with their caregivers is often also how they began to operate in adult relationships. What they noticed is that young children with caregivers that had certain behaviors, okay, they categorized them into 4 categories. Number 1, secure. Number 2, anxious people. Number 3, avoidance. Okay, that was original 3. At the beginning, there was 3 before 4. There was 3. John Bowlby came out with 3. On the 4th one, that was where Mary Ainsworth, a Scottish lady, came through and developed what we call the disorganized, dysfunctional, fearful, avoidant attachment. Okay, all right. So here are the 4 quickly. Secure people grew up in households where they were validated in their emotions. They were allowed to share deep and vulnerable things and weren't laughed at, weren't embarrassed, weren't shamed, okay? Their emotional needs were taken care of. When they needed to, when they were happy, the parents also could receive their happiness. If they were sad, the parents could receive their sadness. If they were hurt, the parents could receive their hurt. The parents would have connection and conversations with their child growing up. Therefore, the child felt secure in their expression emotionally. That's secure people. Then we have the other 3, which is what we call insecure attachments. It's really important, okay? The insecure attachments is this. Number 1, anxious people. Anxious individuals, or anxious men in this case, grew up in a particular household where they were made to be, where they were loved conditionally. The parents were they were irregular with their love. Okay, and what the parents did to that child is that they made associations for the child. The child associated that if they did something, then they'll get love. If they don't do something, they'll be abandoned. So one of the core wounds of any anxious man is that they'll be abandoned. It's actually something I want to talk about maybe next week, is what we get the golden retriever. Because some of you are talking about this golden retriever and black cat situation are just literally talking about avoidant and anxious people and then trying to make it into a powerful movement. It's not. It's an attachment issue, and some of you need help. So the golden retriever aspect is an anxious man. That's why he clings to you. That's why he does everything you want to do, because he's actually identifying with you rather than identifying with his own personhood. He is trying to identify with you so much so that he doesn't lose you. And now he's trying to wear you like he's wearing skin. Okay, so that feeling of I need a man to be obsessed with me, yeah, that's the golden retriever, but that's also an anxious man. He's afraid of being abandoned, so he's not being his true self. Okay, anxious people grow up in households where the parents were irregular with their love, and the parents were unable to were meeting the emotional needs based on conditions. We're going to love you when you do X, Y, and Z. We're going to love you when you get high school grades. We're going to love you when you look after your siblings. We're going to love you when you clean the house. We're going to love you when you are a sportsman, right? Okay, and and being in very harsh, critical environments, this can also lead to very much an anxious person too. If you've got controlling parents who controlled every move of yours, you can't go out past 5 o'clock, can't go past 6 o'clock, after school, straight home, don't go to a friend's house, can't go this, can't do that, every time, can't. If every time that's the situation, that you're creating anxious children. Okay, all right, creating anxious children. Okay. Next thing, we have dismissive dismissive avoidance. Dismissive avoidance grew up in households where their parents were emotionally neglective. The parents, whether on purpose or by mistake, were emotionally neglective. How? They were not unable to meet the child's emotional needs, and they pushed that child into a place of hyper independence. Those of you who had to be a third parent, those of you who had to be a second parent, because sometimes not a second parent. Those of you had to look after your siblings like you were the parent. You were cooking, you were cleaning, taking them to school, getting them up ready for school. You were pretty much a third parent. You could not be a child. You lost all your summer holidays. You were nappy changing, but you were a parent. Okay, and then some of you had to look after your mom or your dad, and you had to be their carer from a young age. Some of you had to be a person who had to financially provide in your household very early on, had to get a job or whatever. Right? And your income was important. Not just like, your income was important. Okay? Right? Your parents, said, you can do it, but I can't support you. I don't know how to do that. Or they left you to your devices. You had to figure it out. Some of you were signing your own doctor's notes. You've been signing your own school notes. You've been paying for your own school uniform. You've done everything by yourself, even though you have a parent. It's created hyper independence. Those dismissive people tend to have their emotions dismissed. When you cried, your parent would dismiss you. Or they would say to you, why are you crying? I'll give you something to cry about. When you were emotional or sad, your parents would say, why are you sad for? There's someone in Africa. There's someone in the Caribbean. There's somebody out here in another third world country who has it worse than you. Why are you emotional? Why are you sad? And all they were doing was dismissing how you felt. Okay? All right? You couldn't even stay happy for very long. Right? You couldn't even stay happy for very long. You get happy, you come home, and your parent wants to ruin the day. Right? You ain't washed the dishes. You ain't cleaned the bedroom. You ain't done this. You ain't done that. You ain't done this. They see your happiness, like they want to trash you. Right? Instantly dismissing how you feel. You go to them for help, and they are dismissing you, saying, I can't do it right now, I'm busy. Right? So these are parents who end up dismissing their child's emotional needs, creating dismissive, avoidant people. Okay? Their biggest fear is rejection. Dismissive, avoidant people fear being rejected by people. So what do? They do everything to make sure they can't be rejected. That means rejecting you first sometimes. That means making sure that I don't tell the full truth about it. People pleasing, yes. Right? That means sometimes I'll tell you something, but I won't tell you my full truth because I haven't got time for you to get emotional. Also, because a dismissive avoidance grew up in households where they weren't allowed to emotionally express, they also don't have a very large, how do I say this? They don't have a large capacity for nonsense. Okay? Like if you're not, like they're going to, listen, if you're not paying your bill this month and you want to come crying to a dismissive avoidant person, they will have a conversation with you one time, and the second time you come again, they're going to be like, why haven't you paid your bill? I don't get it. Like you can't, like they're not going to get emotional with you. They're going to get annoyed because why are you not standing on your own 2 feet? Because for them, no one else gave them an inch or any spare room to make those kind of mistakes. In their life, all they've ever known is they have to do it. And if they don't do it, there is consequences. So why do you get to get away with it? That's their thought process. That's what makes it very difficult. Okay, those are dismissive avoidant people. Okay, then we've got a fearful avoidant people. Men, let's talk about those fearful avoidant men. Okay, fearful avoidant men grew up in households where there is chaos. They grew up in households where there is unpredictability. They grew up in households where it's not safe physically. Okay, yeah, if you've had to move a lot of houses, you might have this aspect. Or if you had to stay with uncles and aunties and and you started seeing, that you weren't really safe. Okay, all right. This can create what we call a fearful avoidant aspect. Fearful avoidant children are afraid of their parents. Simply put, they're afraid. Why? Because they have no clue what that parent will do next. If you had a parent that was a drunkard, if you had a parent that was a drug user, if you had a parent that was a parent that also was a narcissist, an abusive parent, and it doesn't have to be both. It can be one. It can be one parent. One parent could be like if you saw your dad emotionally abuse your mom, or your mom emotionally abuse your dad, or you saw your dad hit your mom, or vice versa. This is now an unsafe environment. You are scared. Don't get twisted. You're scared. Okay, all right. That's now an unsafe environment. Okay. So those children who grew up in those households, what they learn to do is also people please, but we call it fawning. They learn how to act. It's out of survival. They learn how to act. And so actually there's two of them. The first one is a mask. It's a character that they create in order to survive. You know who's a great example of that? Will Smith. If you go and listen to Will Smith's testimony in his book, Will, you will hear somebody who created a character. The perfect comedian who makes everybody laugh. And so long as he can make you laugh, he's okay. He's safe. The moment that you're not laughing is when something goes wrong for him. Why? Because the character can't take the rejection. It's afraid of the rejection or the abandonment or the betrayal. That's why he had a beef with Aunt Viv, the original Aunt Viv. Okay? So a lot of those children learn how to, they learn how to act. Which is why probably, yes, a lot of celebrities are probably more fearful avoidant than we realize, okay? All right? Acting becomes natural, okay? It's survival. It's what they do, okay? But it's because they're afraid of the repercussions. What they feel is love equals harm. For the fearful avoidant, they are often hot and cold in their behaviors. You're hot one time and you're on it, and the next minute you're cold all of a sudden. And it's because you're not emotionally regulated. Okay, and you're afraid of being judged, you're afraid of being hurt, you're afraid of the person insulting you, whatever. You're afraid of there being some level of harm coming your way if you say no. You are always afraid of the repercussions if you decide to choose you over anybody else. Because the household you grew up in, you weren't allowed to choose anybody else apart from the parent first. You couldn't put yourself first. You weren't allowed to. So what does that mean? It means that whenever you're in a relationship with people, your true thoughts within are not often what you act like. You may act in accordance and act in alignment, but you won't believe you inside of you actually disagree. Okay? And it's because you grew up in a household which oftentimes is very scary. Okay, all right? Especially if you grew up in a parent. The parent doesn't even have to be necessarily abusive. An angry parent who you don't know what you're going to get. That if that parent comes through the door, you're not sure they're going to be like, I love you, or they're going to hurt you. And here's the last point about fearful avoidance. They've often heard words like, I love you, and in the same vein, the parent has hurt the child. So that the parent, let's say, for instance, beat up the child and then said, but I love you, I care about you. What does that do to the child? How about if the parent says, I love you, at the same time then insults him, you dirty little child, da-da-da. What does that do to the child? The child then associates I love yous and people saying they love you as harm. The next thing that's going to come is harm. So that's why they go hot and cold. Yes, I love you, but you made me. So oftentimes, fearful avoidant people grow up in abusive households. Okay? Cool. So how does this relate to what we're talking about? Why your man doesn't open up? Well, let's look at that. For dismissive avoidant men, okay, their aspect is if they depend on someone, they will lose control. Okay? For dismissive avoidant men, Okay, and when it comes to opening up, one of the core beliefs is if I depend on you and open up, I will lose control. They've been born into a household where they had to hold it down for themselves, no one else. They don't know how to co-regulate because the parent didn't teach them how to co-regulate. The parent taught them how to regulate by themselves. So now if I start opening up to you as a dismissive, avoidant man, I'm actually having to release the reins of control. It feels like I'm losing control. Okay? And emotions were condemned and dismissed when I was a kid growing up as a male. I'm just going to give an example, right? The dismissive avoidant recognizes that as emotions or sharing emotions, they were frowned upon. They were dismissed. They were pushed aside. They were laughed at. They were mocked, right? So that's now an association. Opening up is now something that will be leading to your demise or you being laughed at, mocked, shamed, embarrassed. It's not safe. So what the dismissive avoidant does is they suppress, detach, and internalize. Now, the key thing about dismissive avoidance also is that the fear is actually, if I do open up to you, what if you're not here tomorrow? What's the point? If I open up you today and then you're not here tomorrow. If I open up to you today and you're not here next week because we're no longer dating, what's the point? Now you can have something over me. In fact, I shouldn't even say that because that's not always the case, right? That's more fearful avoidance, but I'll talk about it in a second. Okay? That's core beliefs. Fearful avoidant core belief, okay? Fearful avoidance, okay? A lot of times, the reason why fearful avoidant men struggle with opening up is because they're always afraid of betrayal. They are always afraid that if they share it with you, they'll be betrayed. A lot of men in this world are actually fearful avoidance. They're not dismissive. They're fearful avoidant. The problem is they meet anxious women. So they always look like they're dismissive because the anxious and avoidant, this is what we call the complementary energies. So it looks like they're actually dismissive when really and truly they're fearful avoidant. But because they meet a lot of anxious women who try to save them, who try to make them a project, I can make him better. Because they meet those kind of women, what ends up happening is they stay in a dismissive place. Okay? But a fearful avoidant, okay, their whole thought is, if I open up, I'll be hurt. Okay? If I open up, I'll be hurt. And if I stay closed, I'll be alone. So because the fearful avoidant has a hot and cold perspective, they're afraid is that if I open up now, I could be hurt. But if I don't open up, then I'll be alone. They're stuck in two minds. Okay? And because, again, they grew up in unpredictable environments, and because love was also modeled to them, love was modeled to them as being harmful. Okay? Intimacy is harmful. Okay? They want intimacy, but they panic when it's offered because, again, love is associated with harm. Okay? And then we have the anxious man. Okay? He opens up, but he doesn't respond the same way. Okay? His thought process is abandonment. Okay? So actually what you'll get from an anxious person is oversharing. You don't have as much problems with anxious people. Anxious people, they will open up. They overshare. And women hate that even more. A woman can work with the undersharing, but the oversharing, oh, women hate it. Y'all hate it. He be oversharing. You be calling him sassy. He's this, he's that. They get all sorts of names when they start oversharing. Like, why has he got to share his whole life with me? Yeah. You know who you are. You know. When that man he's taking a woman's role, he's oversharing, Yeah. I'm not mad at it. It's just what it is, what it is. You know what I'm saying to you? It is what it is, what it is. That's the anxious man, okay? That's the anxious man. Okay? All right. Okay, so anxious men are oversharers, so they don't have much of a say in this situation. So if your man is not opening up, it's probably not because he's anxious. It's probably because he's an avoidant. So let's break this down. Avoidants struggle to open up because they need safety, they need trust, and they need freedom. Okay? They need safety, they need trust, and they need freedom. Let me say again. The avoidant person, the man that you probably hasn't opened up to you, is they need safety, trust, and freedom. Okay? Before they can reveal themselves. Okay? So I want to just let you know, ladies, when that man finally opens, This is not the time to be like, yay. No, we can't over respond. Okay, I want to make it very clear. We don't want to over respond. When a man opens up and shares finally, all he needs is, thank you for sharing with me. I appreciate you sharing me. It makes me understand you a little bit more. Simple terms like that. You know what I'm saying to you? Like, don't baby him. Oh my God, that's so hard. And then you start breaking and the booing and the crying and listen, no one's saying you can't be emotional, but we're saying, you know, when you start doing and thank you, when you start saying, I must have been so hard. Like, you're babying them. Stop that. They hate it. Because what you're doing is you're infantilizing them. And remember, that child grew up very quickly. So any infantilization is actually an insult. It's not a cute thing for them, because remember, they've gone through trauma of having to grow up before their time. Now imagine some of you ladies know exactly what I'm talking about, because some of you grew up before your time. Okay? And you know how it feels when a man tries to, like, you know, baby you a little bit. It's like, whoa. Relax now. Okay? All right? Relax. You get me? Okay? Yeah, so we don't want to respond to everything. Someone said, what about sorry to hear that? Yeah, you can say sorry to hear that. You can say sorry to hear that. You know, I've got more understanding now of you. I get it. You know, thank you for sharing those things. I appreciate you being able to share that with me. You know, like, those are calm things, you know. So yeah, that's also important. Again, remember, we're talking about them sharing deep things with you now. We don't want to overpraise them either, right? Like, oh, I'm so proud of you. I can't believe it. Like, you know what I mean? I'm so proud. Yeah. Like, whoa. Man just shared what he shared, fam. Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that. Simple. Even tone, even kill. Keep it calm. You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay. It's like, you don't. They don't need to be handled. Okay. So they struggle to hear the enthusiasm. All they hear is control. You know what I mean? So I get it. Okay. Okay. So I'll come back to more points as to what's going on. So here are 4 warning signs to say that he's guarded or he's shutting down. Okay. Here is 4 warning signs he's guarded or shutting down. Okay. If you find that you're dating someone that keeps making jokes when emotions arise, they're probably emotionally guarded. Okay. If they're always making jokes when serious situations come up, emotional situations come up, they're always making jokes, you already know that they're probably emotionally guarded. Be aware of that. Okay. When they intellectualize their feelings, right? It's not that deep. Someone can tell you like they lost their whole family and be like, it's not that deep. Like, what? Of course it's that deep. You know what I mean? Like, like someone could say like, listen, I lost my job and I lost, the family and everything, but I'm good. It's like, nah, brother, like, they're intellectualizing their feelings often and minimalizing their feelings as well. Usually that's a sign of them being emotionally guarded or shut down. They always seek to offer solutions and practical help instead of allowing there to be a co-regulation happening. So instead of being able to sit and just be like, okay, you're just sharing your thoughts and doesn't have to be a solution, they oftentimes either have to find a solution for you or they want a solution themselves, right? They can't sit and just having a conversation about something. It's why they don't want to share in the first place. Okay? They think that there has to be a solution. And sometimes there is no solution apart from just sharing to be able to commune. Okay? All right? That's my point. Okay, cool. All right. Cool. Let's get to this. Okay. Someone said therapy is just a money pool. Okay. So, as I said, 6 behaviors I'm going to say that shuts a man down. I kind of mentioned it earlier on, but I want to reiterate it before I go to what can actually help. And then I'll open up the platform for you guys to share your thoughts, okay? Number 1 is over-enthusiasm or excessive praise. Like, doing too much. I'm so glad you open up now. Da da da. It just feels patronizing. I already said that as well. Number two, interrogating. So things like, why didn't you tell me sooner? Why is it taking this long? To tell me, which is more than, it's less than even, it's more than interrogating. It's actually kind of almost shaming them as well a little bit. So you don't do that. Why didn't you never tell me that? Like da da da. No, that's gonna destroy your safe space. It's gonna make the person shut down some more. Okay. Number three, trying to fix them instead of listening. So instead of actually just listening to his point and not having to relate it to anything else and just listening, this will turn into you trying to fix them rather than listen. Okay. And again, once more, reacting emotionally to his emotions. So like crying or taking it personal when he shares. Like some of you will get so deep and emotional when they share, it's like, oh my God, that's so difficult. Da, da, da. You're bawling out. And it's like, yeah, now they feel like there's no space to share. There's no space to emote themselves either, as well. But what makes him open up? A couple of reasons. What makes a man open up? Number one is, calm presence over passionate pressure, Keep your voice, your tone, and your energy steady, Keep your voice, your tone, and your energy steady. Be curious, not corrective and not draconian and not trying to, tell him how to feel. Rather, just be curious. Oh, like, wow, okay, that sounds difficult. What happened there? Oh, you said that you had to move homes? Oh, okay. So like, what was that like moving? Right? Like some of you need to have a bit more curiosity. You know what I'm saying to you? Like, and a bit more, appreciation. Like, thank you for sharing that. I would love to hear some more of that next time. See how I'm saying it, but it's not over the top. I can share and say, hey, look, I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you very much. You know what? Next time, I would love to hear some more stories from you. Right? See how I send the person off. I send them off knowing that, listen, even if it's not right now, I'm also ready for the next time that I want to hear more from when you say it. I'm intrigued. I'm actually, you see what? Because you see the thing about avoidance is they can also tell other people who are not genuinely interested in them. That's also another thing. Okay? That's actually another thing that's also really real. And this is both men and women, by the way, both men and women. Avoidant people are actually really astute in knowing people that actually don't want to know and people actually want to know, but people who actually want to know for knowing's sake and people actually are genuinely interested. There's a difference. There are people who want to know for knowing's sake and there are people who are genuinely interested. You know how you know when people are genuinely interested is that they take themselves out of the equation and they focus a spotlight on you. They're like, wow, you know what? You said about you and your mom and that thing. Like, what was that about then? You know what I'm saying? He's like, oh, what was it? What? Okay. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Nah, that was kind of crazy. I was just thinking about it because as you said it, I was thinking, okay, cool. Like, so, like this situation here, like, what happened there? Right? Genuine curiosity, avoidance are very good at sniffing out people who are not genuinely interested. And that's why they give some of you half-hearted energy. You're not actually interested. You know what I'm saying to you? That's not all of you. That's not all of you. I'm just saying some of you. Okay? It's not all of you. I said that's some of you. You know what I mean? Some of you genuinely aren't that interested. You just want to know because you think that you should know rather than actually being genuinely curious about what's going on with them. And I keep saying it, when you're genuinely curious, you put a spotlight on that person. You know what I mean? Like, if you've watched my lives here, are there not times where someone can talk for a good 15 minutes? I'll just keep listening. I'll just be sitting there. Okay, I'm hearing you. Right? I'm not trained. I'm not licensed. I'm not somebody who's been taught. You understand what I'm saying to you? I'm genuinely curious. So when I'm listening to somebody, I sit there and I keep my mouth shut unless I need to go. I was like, wait, hold on. Wait, you just said something. Wait, you just said something. What did that mean when you did that? And I wait and I can sit here and you'll listen to me and I'll sit for a good few minutes, not say nothing. If you've ever coached with me, I do coaching, by the way. If you want to coach, DM me as well, right? When I coach people, the uncomfortable thing I'll do is I'll sit in silence. We can sit in there for 3-4 minutes. Most people don't make it that far. After a minute, they crack. And then they got to say something. And the reason why I do that is because I want you to understand, I'm not forcing you to speak. I want you to understand that you can sit there and allow your mind. You see, because what happens is when you allow people to room, their mind starts to ruminate. When their mind begins to ruminate, because you see what happens with avoidance, it's a difficult process because when you first start with them, it looks as if they don't want to share. They do. They're not aware, they just don't believe that you genuinely want to know. So they don't trust that you want to know. So the only way to genuinely want to know is there's two things: is genuine curiosity with your questions, and two, holding space and not saying nothing. And just holding it off. Just pausing it, just like, okay. And you sit there. But some people, some women, I love you, and men do this too, by the way, but we're talking about the ladies. Some of you won't allow that space to exist. As soon as there's like 30 seconds of quietness, you want to ask another question. And it's because you think that they are feeling some way about you. No, they are thinking about what you just said. They're trying to process what you said. It takes a little bit longer for them to process it than it does for you. You know what I'm saying to you? And they will get faster. They will get faster, but you have to work with them a little bit. Right? You have to work with them. So when you show that you can hold space of silence, you're also telling them you're patient, because a lot of avoidance did not get a lot of patience. That's the whole point too. So it's actually a trigger. When someone's not patient, it's a trigger for them. You see what I'm saying to you? So key thing is hold the space. Don't be too quick to jump into the conversation. You don't need to fill in the silence. Okay? Ask your question and let it rest. Give them a few minutes. They're going to open up. But they just needed some time just to think about it. You see, it's like a game of chicken. Okay? It's like a game of chicken. And so some of you, the reason it becomes difficult, as someone said, my brain runs overtime, it's hard to wait. Yeah, so then what that sends a signal to the other person is, it's not about them, it's about you. The conversation isn't about them, it's about you. That's what it feels like to the other person. So, of course, your mind might be, spinning, but what it's really saying is you can't even wait a few minutes to let the other person have time to process, which means their thought process isn't important to you. Do you see? So that's how it sends a signal to a person. That's not necessarily what it actually is. You're not saying that you don't care about their thoughts. You know what I'm saying to you? It's just something. You know? You get what I'm saying to you? Cool. So that leads to my point, which is about respecting autonomy and just saying, you can take your time. I'm here whenever you're ready. And just, and sometimes I'm here whenever you're ready. It spans over not that conversation, but it can span over to the next few days, right? You can say, look, I want you to open up and share, and I want to hear your thought process. I'm not forcing you to say it right now, but whenever you're ready, I'm ready to go. Right? And here's another thing. If you say to someone that they can share a little bit later on, or they can share another time, you can't punish the person later on. I'm like, you don't open up the immediately do that. You know what I mean? Like, this destroys what you just done, the good work you just done. You know what I'm saying to you? Right? It's about taking that time. You see me? Okay? Number 3 is validate. Okay? Validate. Validate the person's emotions, without being over the top. Okay? All right. So if the validation, in this aspect is someone saying something like, oh, that makes sense. I can see why you felt that way. Again, that doesn't go over the top, doesn't do too much. Doesn't necessarily throw them into a loop. It's just saying, hey, I can see how you feel that way, or, I can see how that could have been difficult for you at that time. It's not too heavy. You know what I'm saying? We're still validating, but we don't have to go over the top. You know what I mean? Number 4, another way to be able, also be able to get them to open up is to very much do what men do, okay? Because that's how we do things, right? Is that sitting down and having that deep conversation can sometimes be a little bit overwhelming. It's like, oh, come sit here, let's talk. it can be very difficult at first for a lot of men because that's not how we often share. Remember I said that men share oftentimes in a space of experience or doing something. So let's say you were on a walk. On a walk is very much not, it's not so much intensity, but you can ask more deeper questions and and have more conversation. If you were driving, it can be a little bit that aspect, right? Or even if you're cooking or something like that, it's an activity that's going on that allows also for there to be, I wouldn't say a distraction, but I would say more of a case of, being able to kind of be able to so it's not so intense. You know what I'm saying to you? In that space, well. And the last point is men will begin to gradually open when they learn that you won't weaponize their vulnerability. Okay, all right. I remember I was watching something called I don't know what it's called, but it was the characters are Robert and what's the name? The R&B. What's the name? The black couple. It's a black couple, and the guy's running for political whatever now. I've forgotten what his name is, man. Forgive me. And it's a very popular show. And they were having it's a massive viral moment where they were having an argument, and she said, "What can I do when you had your anxiety?" Hey, she used the very deep thing that he had and used it against him. If you use things. If you use things that they've shared with you privately against you, it will destroy the safe space. Okay, all right? People don't feel comfortable sharing with you again. Okay, all right? So it's really important. A typical example of that is that, if you share something with me in coaching and I came on here and started sharing about your life, specifically you, in front of everybody, how would you feel? You'd feel like I've robbed you. Like you'd feel like, whoa, like that was confidential, and I'm now sharing with the rest of the world. How would you feel? Yeah, exactly. It's just not a safe thing. You won't want to coach me again. You know what I'm saying to you? You wouldn't want to be. You wouldn't trust me to keep your secrets, and you would be very apprehensive going forward about me being your coach, because why is it that I can come on TikTok and start telling your stories? You wouldn't want that, right? Okay, and I've been doing this for a very long time where, I've spoke to many people on reality TV, especially on OWN TV. If you've followed me on YouTube, I do a lot of interviews with reality TV stars. If they tell me something behind the scenes, I don't come out on the internet and start telling what they said. Even if I disagreed, I don't come out and say it. Why? Because whatever you told me behind the scenes is behind the scenes. That's the kind of person I am. If you haven't said it in public, why am I coming to that in public? I'm not going to say it in public. There's some other people who will come and tell you in public. I don't do that. Why? Because I cherish the safe space that we've created. Whether I agree with you or not, I'm not about to out you. Okay? Okay. Okay. So, here's an example. Okay. Here's an example of, yes, loose lips sink ships, absolutely. Here's an example of something that can... I'll give an example, actually. I won't say what it is, so you guys can test it for me, okay? Let me just make sure I put this on here as well. And if you guys are needing some coaching as well, DM me. We'll book you into a free discovery call as well, okay? So you can DM me for coaching as well. Okay, example scenario, okay? Here's an example, okay? Imagine as well yourself, okay, ladies in the chat, imagine this situation, okay? I'm the avoidant, I'm the one that's here, that's being quiet, okay? You come to me and you say, you've been quiet lately, is everything okay, all right? And I say to you, yeah, I'm good, okay? Now your response is, you always say that. You never talk about anything real. How do you feel about that response, ladies? If you were to say that, right? How would you feel about that response? You've said to me, you've asked me, is everything okay? I've been quiet lately. And then I say, yeah, I'm good. And you said, but you always say that. You never talk about anything real. It feels like an attack, right? Fantastic. Okay, cool. I hear you. Here's another response, okay? Here's another response. Another response would be, okay, no pressure. Just want to know that you don't have things to carry alone. I'm around when you're ready. Okay? I'm going to say it one more time. Another response is, okay, no pressure. Just know that you don't have to carry things alone. I'm around when you are ready. How do we feel about a response? I love that. Jasmine said it sounds supportive and warm. Love that. Lisa, open and safe. Absolutely. Right? So everything we're saying, everything we're saying is really important about the reframe. And it's difficult, right? It is difficult. I'm not saying it's easy. It's so difficult because let's say, for instance, it's happened a few times, right? And it's like, it's difficult because a lot of us actually don't recognize that we don't have good framework or good reference in the way that we actually say something, right? So again, we assume that we're better off than we really are, right? So we'll be like, I was speaking to someone and said, I've said that before. And I'll be like, okay, well, then you got two choices. If you've actually said those words, then yeah, you might be in a situation where you might have to leave that person. Or two, you might not sound like that when you think you do, but you might not sound like that when you actually talk to that person. Like, you see, so a lot of times people don't actually know what they sound like until they listen to themselves back. That's why I love when couples come to me and we do the couples coaching. They think they're saying something. And I'm like, do you know what you just said to the person? Yeah, I said this and I said, you didn't say that. I want to let you know you didn't say that. You actually didn't say that. You know what I mean? Because, you see, when you listen to yourself, you think you're saying that, but you don't realize that sometimes even your tone changes the sentence, right? Your tone, even the word choice. Well, I'll be ready when you're ready then. Right? If I said, well, I'll be ready when you're ready then. I still kind of said it, but I still kind of said I was open. I'm ready when you're ready. But you can hear in my tone that I'm a little bit irritated. So what does that do? It sends a signal to the other person who's also probably hypervigilant, by the way. Avoidants are also very hypervigilant to changes in the atmosphere. So now you're hearing me say, I'm open, yeah, but I'm irritated at the same time. Now, no one's saying you shouldn't be irritated. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying don't be irritated. But what I'm saying to you is you never catch it's easier to catch bees with honey than it is to catch them in vinegar. So the way we're gonna say something is what's really important. So if you're frustrated, go and work it out in the room and come back up and then say it. Okay? If you weren't under pressure, if you weren't feeling the sting, how would you say it? It wouldn't come out the way you just said it. And that's the key part as well, too. It's for both men and women, by the way, when I say this, okay? All right. So, yeah. Okay, cool. So, here are some questions, okay? Or question for anybody here in the audience. When a man pulls away emotionally, what is your usual response? When a man pulls away emotionally, what is your usual response? Do you chase? Do you shut down? I'm going to match energy. Or are you going to stay calm? Which one do you normally choose? Okay? When a man pulls away emotionally, what's your usual response? Do you chase them and harass, and not harass, but you chase them and like, come on, tell me. Or are you a person who goes, you know what, I'm just going to shut down, or I'm going to mirror them. If they're going to do that, I'm going to do that too. Or do we say, I just stay calm? Okay. All right. Cool. Someone said I usually chase because I feel like I'm being rejected. And that's fair. I understand that. Okay? I totally understand. Okay? Those who are saying calm, I appreciate that too. It's good to know. For those of us who have maybe a more of a either anxious or an avoidant perspective, and I've been here myself, this is something I've actually had to work with. Rejection, that me asking how are you doing and you feeling some type of, and you not telling me but I know there's something wrong, it did make me feel some type of way. It always felt like rejection. It always felt like I've done something wrong, right? I had to learn how to change. I had to learn how to change the narrative in my head. And I listen, it's a daily job. It's a daily job because the narrative that goes in your head says, oh, there are several, for some of you, you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to say some narratives for you. Some of you are going to be like, oh, so you're going to ignore you? Oh, so you ain't going to tell the truth? Oh, we're just going to be lying now? We ain't going to tell the truth? That's some of you. Some of you are like, if they're feeling this way, I must have done something wrong. Like, why won't they tell me? Another person's like, oh, they're about to leave me. They're about to betray me. Oh, he must have another girl. He's talking to. Or, another person's like, well, if that's what we're doing, let me show you I can do it better than you. Yeah? All those responses are insecure responses. And there are narratives that we tell ourselves based upon our attachment style usually as well. Okay? And so those responses are not helpful to you because they cause you to spiral. And what you are doing is you're personally identifying with their emotions instead of actually identifying how you really feel. If you feel in this moment rejected, you should still process it. Okay, why do I feel rejection right now? And if you really deep it, you will ask another questions further down the line. You'll be like, wait, hold on. Why do I feel rejected? They haven't rejected me yet. So why do I feel rejected? And when you start tracing, you realize you go right back to the very beginning of your life. You've seen this behavior before. I saw it with my daddy. I saw it with my mum. I saw it with my uncle. I saw it with my first boy. You've seen it before. That's why you're feeling like a rejection is coming. That's why you've made an association with their behavior and rejection or abandonment or betrayal. You've already seen that behavior and where it leads to. So you are now attaching that past example to the present moment. So it makes sense why your brain naturally goes down that lane because it's reading the pattern. That's what our brains do. They read patterns in order to keep you safe. So it's very difficult to change that. So what needs to happen is what we call an awareness needs to come in. Okay? An awareness needs to come in. Why is an awareness to come in? The awareness of where you are right now and not to react, but to respond. Okay? We don't want to react. We want to respond. We want to be able to have control over our response to what they're doing right now. Okay? Your reaction will send you down a spiral. Okay? See, because what you want to get to is be able to even when you're working it, you want to be able to get to a place where you go, look, you know what? Maybe you didn't open up. Listen, when you didn't open up, I did feel a sense of rejection. But I took myself out and I recognized that it wasn't about you. It was about me. It was about how I felt about your behavior. And that was something I had to work through. So it's not you, it's me. When you start taking ownership and start taking accountability for the fact that you feel the way you do because of what you've experienced, you then take off the weight of the other person. And a lot of avoidants date people who are anxious people. And what tends to happen is the anxious person starts projecting how they feel onto the avoidant person. And vice versa, because the avoidant person then also at the same time also feels trapped but doesn't communicate that and then takes space. And when they don't communicate how much space they need, and then they then create emotional distance, and then the anxious person's like, oh no, they're about to leave. Then they go and run after them and chase them again. And it's like, it just creates a cycle. Okay? Now, Rachel asked me, what if he's doing it for a week? Here's what we need to do. Someone does that for a week. It's not fair. It's not nice. Okay? We don't want to see that. So what do? We calm ourselves and we work through how we feel. Right? We work through and we process how do we feel. Okay, it's been a week. I haven't spoke to him. How do I feel? Okay, I feel rejected. I feel hurt. I feel let down. I do feel disappointed because it's been a week. Okay. I process how I feel. Okay, I process how I feel, and then I allow myself to calm the heck down. Because the next conversation I'm about to have with that person is to let them know boundaries. Like, just in case you didn't know, for me, in order to feel safe in this relationship, in fact, let me start again, because I need to obey my rules. We start with a compliment, behavior, emotion, explanation, change. First and foremost, thank you for finally, thank you for listening, or thank you for texting back. Thank you for having this conversation with me, okay? I just want to let you know that obviously last week, I know we didn't speak. I know you were taking your space, and I appreciate you taking your space. For me, to be able to be in an emotionally safe relationship, I don't like not talking to my person for a whole week because it makes me feel like that I'm not being loved. I'm not being cared for. It makes me feel distant from my partner. It makes me feel like we're not really connected. This is how it makes me feel. Okay. And when I don't feel connected to my partner, I also then start thinking about, okay, where, I also start thinking about, okay, maybe I need to leave, or maybe I need to, maybe I not, maybe you don't care about me as much as I think you care about me. My mind goes somewhere which becomes very negative and not very positive. So in future, if you want to take space, I don't have a problem with you taking space. What I do need is communication to let me know that you need space, so that I'm also prepared also to respond to that. And if you need a week, that might not work for me. I want to be able to have a discussion, but I'm open to negotiating. For me, a week is too long. I can do a couple of hours. Now that's a big drop. I'm just giving you an example. I can do a couple of hours when I don't speak to you, because that's for me. I can do a couple of hours. Okay, all right. I can do a couple of hours. Okay. Now, why am I saying this? Because when you do this correctly, it is not a guarantee the person will actually obey what you just said. I'm not teaching you so you win them back. I'm teaching you so that you know how to do it effectively. Because anybody who doesn't want to do that with you, they don't want to be with you. Deep it. If you are able to do this correctly and you run through the process where you compliment them, you explain the behavior, you explain how it emotionally affected you, you explain how this is how, when you're emotional in this space, what it makes you behave as, and you've asked and said, I want to, the change I want to, you're not saying this is a change. You're saying, for me personally, what I want to see is, if you want to take space, no problem. We need to be able to communicate that and agree on a time period that would work for both of us in order for you to have the space. Now, what I am comfortable with is maybe it's a couple of hours. He might say, well, let me do 3 or 4 days. And you say, hey, I hear it and I love that. For me personally, 3 or 4 days is far too long. I need maybe 6 hours or 8 hours I can do. Maybe even a day I can do, right? And then if you need that, you just tell me, you take a day and you come back. No problems, right? You're negotiating. But if a day is absolutely a no-go, once you discuss this and you negotiate and the person says, I can't do a day, do you know what you're going to do? You know what? I appreciate you sharing that. I do believe that, we have a great connection, but unfortunately I can see that we're not compatible in this area. And I want you to be the best person you can be with somebody else. Right? I don't want to restrict you, and I don't want you to feel like I'm controlling you. And I also don't want to feel like I'm not safe, and I don't want to feel like I'm not being reassured. So I want to take an executive decision. I believe that this will be a good time for us to part ways, because I recognize that we're incompatible on this major area for me. Do you see what I'm saying to you? When you do this effectively, they've got 2 choices. Fix the frick up and come with it, or they got to go. Right? And what you might find is, when you put it that way, the way I just put it, if he's an avoidant, I can tell you that most avoidants will put respect on your name. Because one of the biggest fears avoidants actually have is that they don't believe you have good boundaries. And they're always afraid that you will be enmeshed with them. Okay? The process is CBEC. Hold on, let me type it in the chat for you guys. Okay? Change, okay. All right, cool. Okay, yeah, CBEEC. Sorry, I said CBEC. CBEEC, okay? So this is really important. Once you learn how to do this, this will weed out people that are not good for you. Because whenever you're healthy and you do things healthily, somebody who does things unhealthily, why would you want to be them? Do you get what I'm saying to you? I don't want to be around unhealthy people, because I'm healthy now. Do you see what I'm saying to you? Like, if I'm not a person that shouts and screams. If you shout and scream, I'm like, hey, what? This ain't for me. See, that immediately begins to create a filter system that you can now begin to work with in terms of choosing a partner. The dating scene is crap because a lot of us got crap filter systems. Okay? There's actually crap in your filter system. So you can't even identify when you see crap.